Every once in a while you come across a car that you've seen a million times in the past, you paid no attention to, and it's been basically invisible. That is until the very first time you get behind the wheel and you realize just what you've been missing out on, just how fantastic that car is. And for me, it's this 1998 Mercedes E430, and at $2,100, the thing has been incredible. And just like any of the other auction cars that I've bought in the past, that $2,100 is just the beginning of the story. Hey, I had that one-wheel peel brewing back there, huh? Check that out. Frankly, that was the very first time I laid into the throttle since getting this car over 6 months ago, and I didn't know what to expect, but there was a nice little smoke show back there, didn't you think? Now, you know about the Mercedes E-Class. You've seen them all over the place. They've been all over the road, and there's all kinds of versions of these cars, from the wagons, sedans, and stuff like that. However, if you haven't spent any time behind the wheel, like I haven't before buying this thing, well, you're in for a pleasant surprise, especially considering the purchase price of these cars now. Now, Mercedes designated this era E-Class the W210. It ran from 1996 to 2002. I was looking for production numbers recently, and I can't find anything other than the estimate of about 40,000 of these being sold in the United States for each of those years of the generation. There was 4 different engine options. There was a diesel, there was an E320, which was the 6-cylinder version, the 430, which is the V8, and then there was an E55, which is the high-performance AMG model. One thing that you get with the 430, you get these really cool wheels. And this is one thing I've always noticed on the 430 models, was this design wheel. And you get the 215, 55, 16 tires and a lower profile. Something to me that just screams W210 are the 4 oval headlights. Now, this is a wild departure from the generation prior, where you had rectangular headlights, and really that version E-Class resembled a miniature S-Class. Interestingly, with these headlights, this piece right here, this is the turn signal right here. Low beams, high beams. Always wondered how that worked. You got driving lights down below. And with all your W210s, you also get a large, huge single windshield wiper. If you're familiar with Mercedes of this era, you know the interiors are nearly indestructible on these cars, and even the generations prior to this. This is a 25-year-old car, and everything still looks really fantastic. No cracks in the dash, no splits or tears in the seat fabric. The steering wheel looks fantastic. The center console looks great. However, when you get to the center section, it's always in the wood. There's always little cracks right here or there. Somewhere along here, there's some kind of blemishes. Now, this is a 25-year-old car, and there's nothing special or unique about how this thing was cared for during its lifetime. But the materials and the quality of the interior is exactly what you could expect from Mercedes of this era. Like any luxury car, you get power features, and on the door, you get your power seat controls. You get your fore, aft, up and down. You get your back seat adjustment, headrest. And this little guy took me a minute to figure out what it is, but it's actually in the shape of the steering wheel and the steering column, so that's your telescoping and adjusting steering wheel. Your memory seats, door airbags. You have your headlight controls, not just your parking lights and headlight controls, but if you turn to the left, you can also set up a parking light for the left side of the car and for the right side of the car if you're on the side of the road. You can designate the left lights to be on or right lights to be on as a warning to other drivers. Your vent controls, and oddly, this little guy, you push this up and the hot air or cool air comes out here and goes against the window. On the dash, it's your basic gauges along with all the pixels listed out here on the display, which is pretty cool. 99,000 miles. Now, I put 6,000 effortless miles on this car since bringing it home and getting it back on the road. Here's your clock controls down here. You have your power door locks, and if you push it down, it actually unlocks, and you push it up, it locks the doors. Makes no sense. This drops the rear headrest to the rear seat passengers. Climate control, stereo, obviously. Down below here is your, I think that's your CD player. Underneath that is storage, ashtray. And you have your traction control, power windows for all 4 right here in the center. I thought that was super convenient. This little guy led to a lot of confusion until I opened up the manual. That's your back window lockout for the windows, trunk release, and mirror controls. And I like how you have your left and right mirror right there. This is your first gear lockout. If you're in W, you start off in second gear. Makes for a little smoother acceleration, a little easier to get out of mud and ruts and so forth. In front of that is a hidden cup holder. How about that? Kind of cool. You push the magic button down. The center armrest has two buttons right here. You lift the first one and gives you access to the top of the center armrest. And the larger button obviously gets you to the lower section, which also has an air vent down here. So when you have the heater on, this is pumping in nice hot air. In the summer, it's nice cool air. You can have a sandwich and a soda in there. It keeps it ice cold. Out back, you have door pockets, you power windows, of course. You have a fold down center armrest. If you open this up a little bit, you have cup holders. And if you pull it out a little more, Mercedes gives you a first aid kit. And in front of that, you have air vents. In the trunk, just a basic trunk, not a whole lot going on. You have a CD changer over here. You have some coolant that I keep back here, some grocery store bag. And underneath the floor, you have your spare tire, which I'm looking at it now for the first time. Looks brand new, and I just may have to add that to the tire rotation on the car. Under the hood, 4.3 liter, 275 horsepower V8. And just as the center section was confusing with all the diagrams and so forth, complete opposite under here. Very intuitive. You have your coolant reservoir, air cleaner, dipstick, filter, fill, power steering, windshield washer, brake fluid, and so forth. Super easy, super simple, very well engineered. So I was looking for a new daily driver, and I came across this car at the auction that I love to hate the most, called Capital Auto Auction. It's a charity auction that does a ton of volume, about 300 cars a week in my location, and there's 2 other locations on the East Coast as well. Now, the condition report that they provide and the photos that they provide are horrible, absolutely horrible. The photos are from 20, 30, 40 feet away, and they're presenting the car in low quality definition. It's just terrible. And however, it is a lesson that I teach my kids, is that when you're buying at this auction, you get what you get and you don't get upset. And you just have to deal with that. Now, this car has a ton of blemishes, but it took much more than just the purchase price of $2,100 to get this car to where it is today. In terms of paint quality, there's a ton of shine. I mean, it's really fascinating how great Mercedes paint is. However, when you get up close, you can see it's all faded out on the top portions here, along the top of the door here. And then it leads into the C-pillar as well. And then it turns into shine. I think somebody went through here with a buffer and just tore it up, went too aggressive. You can see the weather stripping is a little leaky right here, and you can hear that when you're going down the highway. You can see up here on the roof, I got black tape keeping the sunroof down, and when I bought the car, the sunroof was jammed in the open position. The cables were all mangled. I had to pull this all apart. I did not put new cables in yet, so right now the tape is simply there to keep the sunroof from flopping when you go over 50 miles an hour. You can see the scratches and blemishes down here on the trunk lid, but just right here and not necessarily on the quarter panel. Really odd. We have a nice little ding right here on the trunk lid. And down below on the rear bumper, you can see a big chunk of plastic missing. Every wheel is either curb rashed or stained or blemished in some way. And then down here on the front bumper, the same kind of piece is missing, chunks. Looks like a minor front end collision happened at one point. And mechanically, the car needed a few things done to it before it was drivable. Apparently, it was involved in some kind of parking lot collision down here, probably a parking curb. The lower radiator frame was smashed in so much that the radiator came in contact with the fan, destroying the radiator. So $420 later, I put a new radiator in. The AC compressor was not engaging. It was oozing fluid out, and it went to the shop so they could evacuate the refrigerant and put in a new AC compressor. And while they were doing that, they also noticed the water pump shaft was wobbling, making a noise at the same time. So in goes a new water pump as well. $1,250 for that. Between those repairs, auction fees, a window regulator, tire rotation, oil change, fluid flush out of the transmission, all in, I'm at $4,200 now on a $2,100 car. But even at $4,200, this car defies logic. It does not feel like a 25-year-old car. I swear to God, this thing drives and rides as nice as anything from 2022. There is some things that I dislike about it, though. The very first thing you realize when you start up the engine on this car, just how smooth it is. It's velvety, it's buttery, it's liquid, whatever adjective you want to use, it's true, every single one of them. Secondly, the visibility. You sit up high, the windshield's down low, there's no blind spots, 360-degree visibility all around. Also, it's the steering, it's light, it's effortless, the brakes are crazy strong. It handles really well. It's more like a sports sedan handling. It does everything you expect to do, and it does it really, really well. But really, I just love buying $2,000 and $3,000 cars and being pleasantly surprised by what you get out of it. And another big deal with these cars is depreciation. I'm going to call that a pro. Look, Mercedes, they always get murdered with depreciation. They just get hammered. But at 25 years old, you're already at the bottom here. And these cars, they're bound to go up at some point, especially given that they're V8, rear-wheel drive, low tech, no infotainment screens, no hydraulic suspensions, and all these other doodads that tend to go bad over time. And another thing with these cars that don't get much play is the turning radius. Dude, these things turn and get you out of parking lot situations like nothing else on the road. It's incredible. There's I don't know if there's extra articulation in the suspension or what, but these things turn harder, tighter than anything else I've ever driven. Look, there's a couple knocks with this car that just drive me nuts, and the biggest one that I can't stand, I swear, the seats. It's like sitting on a park bench. This thing is rock hard. It moves and adjusts fine. You get all that out of the seats. But look, if I'm in this seat for more than 20 minutes, my ass is burning. I swear, I can't take it no more. And if I have to drive anywhere that I know I'm going to be in the seat for more than 20, 30 minutes, I'm taking something else. This car is not on my list of cars to take. It's unfortunate too, because this thing flies down the road. It eats up the miles. 0 to 60, the car magazines of the time says 6.6 seconds, and I think that time is legit. This thing loves to go fast. It's just effortless on the highway, and it's a fun car to drive. Still have a few things I got to do with this car, even at $4,200 all in. The alignment is off, but even though it tracks straight, the steering wheel is just a little like this. I picked up lowering springs from H&R. I was going to drop the ride height down by 1.25 inches. I don't know if I'm going to follow through with that. The springs came in, but I'm debating whether to do that or not before I get the alignment done. So that's a question mark that I have. Do I want to fix the front and rear bumpers with the cracks in it? All in, that's going to be about $1,000, bumpers and repairs and paint. Same thing with the paint work on the side where it's all burned out from the buffer. Another $1,000 for color and clear on those sections. Do I really want to spend that kind of money? And then it's the price tag on these things. Full retail price, if you go to Cars and Bids, you look at sale prices on these things, around $8,000 or so. You know, and after I make the repairs, you know, I'm right about going to be at that $7,000, $8,000 mark. And, you know, is it worth it? Is this car, does it deserve that? Especially at 100,000 miles at this point. So look, these cars offer a lot of value for the money and a driving experience that's better than what you just might expect. And if you're out there looking for another car for not a lot of money, don't overlook something that's invisible your whole life, but is right in front of your eyes the whole time. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.